Hey guys, it's Cyrus of Chaos. I'm here today with Sam Imrek and Hadley Husisian, and today we are going to be talking about the Doha Grand Prix that they both had breakout performances in. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves, starting with Hadley. And first, I want to just make sure that, did I say your name correctly? Because I know that's a hard
Yes,
name
you
to
did.
say. Okay, good.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, yeah, go for it.
Oh, yeah, I'm Hadley Husisian. I guess I fencer at Princeton. Recently got bronze in Doha, which is why we're here today. And currently taking the year off of school to try to focus on training. But really happy to be here.
Awesome. And Sam?
Hey everyone, I'm Samuel Imrek. Also just coming back from Doha was I'm also taking the year off of school, just focusing on fencing here. And yeah, really glad to be in another Sassy Chaos video.
So, first of all, what is it like taking a year off to just focus on the sport? Because previously you guys have been in either high school or college, and now suddenly this is just 100%. So, what is the transition to that like?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'd say like it's much nicer to say the least, like to not have to worry about school. I remember I'm taking a gap year between high school and college right now. And my senior year of high school, I was doing almost as much, not quite as much, but very close to the same amount of traveling that I'm doing this year. And like it was just so much at times, especially when you have to go from a junior World Cup to a senior World Cup, or even sometimes when two junior World Cups or senior World Cups are just a couple weeks apart. A lot of work cramming done, and just really overwhelming sometimes in general. Having to go to the airport on the planes and just like do studying on the plane. And now that's not the case, so that is much nicer. How I get to have just I don't really have to worry about much. I can read or do go watch movies on the plane or anything like that. I don't have to have any of this extra like weight on me.
So you find it less stressful.
Yeah.
Got it. What about you, Hadley?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think a lot of people listening can relate that it can be overwhelming, like Sam was saying, having the international travel and the domestic competitions and then trying to balance schoolwork on top of that. It can be pretty difficult, but this year it's like really slowed down, especially for me because I'm not a junior fencer anymore. It's my first year solely in senior, so it's just not nearly as much time traveling, and then I also don't have schoolwork on top of that, so I have a huge amount of free time, so it's kind of odd. I'm not used to like getting a lot of sleep and being able to spend like a good chunk of my day doing like recreational activities. So I've found that it can be really freeing to be able to pursue like other hobbies and things outside of just school and fencing. But at times it can be like a bit boring almost because I'm just not used to like being able to shut down and do more of what I want. So it can be like a bit monotonous and boring, and then it like transfers to these periods of high stress where I'm actually competing and then back down. So it's a lot of up and downs, but it is a really cool and interesting opportunity that I'm trying to capitalize on. Like the times where I'm fencing, obviously, focusing on that as much as possible, but in the free moments, just taking advantage and doing things that I wouldn't have been able to if I weren't having the year off.
Nice. Well, I'm glad that it's been a positive change for both of you. I know sometimes people say when it's just the sole thing that you're focused on, it's really hard because that just becomes kind of the only thing that you're doing and there's no real escape from it. But I'm glad that that has not been that experience for either of you guys. So, the main reason that we're here is to talk about the Doha Grand Prix, where you both had breakout performances and got bronze medals, which is amazing. And it's so cool that that happened for both of you at the same time, especially because you guys were and and are both successful on the junior level also. And I know that sometimes the transition from the junior level to the senior level can be difficult. Can you guys tell me what you think the biggest difference in the transition from junior to senior fencing is? And since we started with Sam before, maybe we can start with Hadley now.
Yeah, I think for me especially, like Sam still has some junior years
Yeah.
left in him, but those days are past me. So at times, like it's just the quality of fencing, even the more middle of the pack fencers are still like insanely strong.
Yeah.
So
Everyone's
it's just
better in seniors.
Yeah, everyone's better. Like it's a huge jump, like a lot bigger than just cadet to junior. So there have been times this year that I was like, man, I really miss winning stuff. That's kind of the biggest difference. You lose a whole lot more and you lose like very early sometimes. So that's a bit to adjust to just come out of most tournaments being a little bit disappointed in yourself. I think that is the biggest difference, but it also makes you have to elevate your own level of fencing.
It can be
And so
motivating too.
yeah, it's pretty motivating. Like in the times where you're like, man, I kind of want to maybe sneak out of practice early. You know that that's not an option.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's definitely motivating, and it does cause your own level to rise along with the competition. But sometimes I do miss the junior days, especially when my friends who are still in that age group are making fun of me for being a dinosaur.
They have nothing to make fun of. Oh my god. That'll happen to them soon, and if they're making fun of you for being a dinosaur now, boy, they've got something coming soon. Sam, same question.
Yeah, I mean, just regards to junior, senior fencing, it is totally different. As Hadley was saying, she is in her first year of seniors right now. Right now, I'm 2 years younger, so I'm in my second year of junior, second out of third year. So I
Mhm.
still have another year after this, and
That's crazy.
there's still a lot of similarities, but you also have, like I've noticed the biggest difference in general is just the World Cups, like junior World Cups. There's some that are like very difficult. Like everybody's there. You got everybody from Europe, and you got people from America, and like all the places they're there, and some are just very very difficult. Sometimes you have all the Americans, only maybe two or three make a 16. Sometimes none of them make top 8. We all like would lose or 64-32. That is not an uncommon occurrence. And then there's also some World Cups that are just like objectively easier, and some and you have some like in South America, for example, really the only challenges of Americans plus maybe two or three good South Americans. And then you have ones that are over in other parts across the world that just not many people go to. So you have these tournaments with like 250-ish people, some with maybe like 100. And, in seniors is not that way. Yeah, sure, there are senior World Cups where there are World Cups harder than others. But for the most part, you still have the top 16 fencers.
Not
The
that
top 16,
kind of variance.
yeah, they're all showing up as well. Yeah, many other things. As I said, some similarities. And yeah, also in seniors, usually everyone is good. Like, sure, you might get a couple easy bouts in pools, but when it comes to DEs in seniors, you really always got to fight your way through. Juniors, you might get away with, um, having a quote unquote, like luckier side of the bracket. But yeah, seniors, it's much more consolidated for the good fencers, and it's much harder to get past, um, like 64-32, etc.
Yeah, totally. The format is also different, which can be interesting because in the senior format, if you have a bad pool, you basically have to get an upset twice, because after you get your first upset, it resets your seed to kind of be low again, even though you may have stolen the seed like in a junior tournament. So you have to upset, then you have to upset again, which is, that's really hard to do even once, and the second time that's hard to do also. So the circumstances around Doha were really unusual. I said that before, but the reason they were unusual is because there was actually a double booking of the venue, and they couldn't find another venue on that notice that was available during the same days. So instead of it being, I think it was supposed to be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday World Cup, it ended up being, a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday World Cup in the same venue, which is bizarre. And also, kind of randomly, the same thing happened at a cadet EFC event in Romania, where they were supposed to renovate the venue that they usually use, so they wanted to do another one, but the other venue got, like, basically it came back to them at the last minute and told them, oh, sorry guys, someone else paid more than you, so you don't have this venue anymore. And they actually ended up solving the problem by going back to the first venue and checking with them. And they're like, oh, yeah, we haven't actually started reservations yet, so you can just use this place again. But I've never heard of that happening ever. And it happened twice in the same weekend with different solutions each time. So I'm curious, how early did you guys know that this happened? Was this a last second thing, or was it like a couple weeks or a month before?
I don't quite remember when I was notified that it was going to be shifted to the middle of the week. I don't think I was like a super last minute thing where we were like sent spiraling to change tickets around. But yeah, it was interesting because I've been to Doha twice before this one, and it was like in a similar location but in a different building or something. So
Mhm.
that meant that we were split among like two floors. So that and like it changed things around a little bit in that way, and especially for me because the practice area was like really far removed from the main venue, and also it was like a smaller area. Um, like it was a small area, and they're running the men's and women's events concurrently, so that made it be like a very long day.
Yeah.
And also I didn't have an internet connection the whole day, so the whole time I'd be trying to communicate with my coach, but a good chunk of the time I'd be like, wait, where is he right now? And I'd be trying to do a lesson or something, and he'd be waiting for me downstairs, and I'd be waiting for him upstairs. And that left like a bit of confusion for the day, but it ended up not being an issue because I'm sure Sam had this experience too. There'd be like you'd finish your bout and you'd be like hopped up on adrenaline. It's like, okay, when's my next one? They'd be like, oh, it's in 4.5 hours. And you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll take a nap then. So it was a smaller venue, and there's like a little bit of confusion, at least because of that. But I mean, it was still like a quite sufficient, and I don't think it was like a huge disruption that it was moved to the middle of a week, especially because I wasn't like missing additional classes being out of school.
That's a good point too. Okay, so I didn't realize that it wasn't super super last minute. So you didn't have to change your hotels or your flights around. That's good. The next thing I wanted to talk about was just how the tournament went for each of you, because while you both finished with a bronze medal, the path that you both took there was extremely different. So let's talk about Sam's pool first, and then we'll get to Hadley. So how did your pool go, Sam?
Yeah, so my pool, I did go 6-0 and make it straight to the day two. In case you're new here, you don't really know how it works. Pretty much if you get the day two is the top 64 fencers, and the top 16 seeds, they automatically make it to day two. And then there's all the pools, just pools like a normal tournament, and top 16 out of pools, they make it to day two as well. So then you got 32 people, and then the rest of the 32, they fight in the DEs, the ones that weren't cut from pools, of course. And there before, yeah, I'd never gone 6-0 in a Senior World Cup before ever. And usually even in up until that point, the first time I got 6-0 in a Junior World Cup was just like two tournaments prior to that was the first time I ever went 6-0 in a Junior World Cup.
Oh, really?
So or I went 6-0 at Junior World Championships, but that was the first time I ever went 6-0 at any like junior like international event period. So, but anyways, yeah, I mean, just there. So I had a pool. It was like it was pretty solid. I believe I had Brinkman from Germany, and I had Fava from France. Those were the two main people in my pool, and I also had a guy from Japan, Ito, I believe, and yeah, so I had them. It was pretty solid, and but yeah, I managed to just squeeze my way out. I had two bouts in priority with Fava and Brinkman. They were both priority bouts, and but yeah, I was able to pretty much take the other bouts like with the other three. I just tried to remain as laser focused as possible. And yeah, sure enough, and of course, if you go 6-0, you're most of the time guaranteed to get into the 16 after pools. And yeah, in that tournament specifically, I don't know how it went for the women's, but for the guys, it was everybody who got 6-0, they made it out. And then there was, I think, around like 3 or 4 people who went 5-1 and still made it because they had a very good indicator. But yeah, that's pretty much just how my pool went. Couple priorities, pretty intense. Yeah.
And so that means that he got to skip the first day, which is a crazy gauntlet for the people who don't, especially in epee, because the tournaments are so large and you have this huge number of people just fighting for 32 spots. So getting all those wins to go all up in pools is so important. It's just a huge mental load off. And so then I know that didn't happen for you, Hadley, but tell us about your pool.
Mm-hmm. My pool, I think I'd fenced 3 or 4 of them in previous tournaments. I ended up going 4-2 with like not super great indicator, so that obviously meant I was going to have to fence some DEs to get through it. So I ended up having to do 2 DEs, both of whom I'd fenced before, the first of which was a Hong Kong fencer that was my first bout at Junior Worlds. So I was familiar with her.
Hmm.
And the next bout was against a Peruvian fencer that I'd fenced at a satellite and like in warm-up bouts at the Milan World Championships. Yeah, so it'd been a few tournaments where I'd skip making day 2, so that was already a win of sorts. I'd had a bit of a drag, so I was definitely happy to get past that block. Yeah, it's definitely better to win all your pool bouts for sure. So that'd be a big help, especially like you said, the epee tournaments tend to attract a pretty big crowd, so it can be
Huge.
like a really really big help for and also setting yourself up with a better seating for day 2, because I hadn't done great on day 1. That meant that I was going to have to fence someone who had an automatic bye as top 16 in the world for my first bout as well. So it's definitely, pools are much bigger in senior tournaments. I'd say that's another difference from junior.
For sure. So who was it that was your top seed in the first round?
It was a French fencer, Vitaly. She had won the previous World Cup in Vancouver, and we'd actually fenced 2 years prior in Doha as well,
Oh,
the same event. So I was familiar with her.
nice. And obviously that one went well. Sam, what about you in the 64?
Yeah, 64. Since I made it from the pools, I had somebody who fenced it from the DEs the previous day. I got Golubov from Bulgaria, and yeah, that bout was very very close, very stressful.
Yeah.
I was down the whole bout, and it was until then it was tied. I believe I tied it 12-10-10, and then I was down 12-10, I think, and then it was 12-12, and then I was down 14-13, and then just managed to pull that one out. So yeah, he very tricky fencer. But yeah, I just had to keep my cool and just
And let us just say the day improved a lot from that point. So what about the next one against another American?
yeah, I fenced my boy Justin.
This is about with a big height difference too.
Oh yeah. I mean, definitely. I don't know what I'm like 5'8". He's like 6'5", I believe. Yeah, I got a lot of tall guys at my club though, so it's I'm used to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say I think I've never seen someone beat as many people who are so much taller than them as you have.
Yeah, I mean, it just really boils down like, yeah, sure, height and epee, sure it is obviously an advantage to be taller. You just simply have more reach.
Yeah.
But yeah, since you're but as a shorter fighter, you just there is ways. You just got to just work around it. Yeah, just depending on a variety of factors, distance, like timing, and just tip control, and just how you manage the bout in general. But yeah, Justin, I fenced him in the past, so that was my 5th time ever fencing him, and my 4th time fencing him in this season. So before that, I fenced him 3 necks. I fenced him at the April neck. I fenced him at the. I fenced him at April neck. I fenced him at December, I think it was, and then I fenced him in January neck. So I fenced him 3 times before that.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and actually, he pulled out the French grip against me, in the first period, but he switched back to pistol. But I wasn't expecting that. He was sneaky with that, but.
And then Hadley, tell us about your second bout.
Yeah, so I think I also had to come back for my first bout. I was down 6-2, I want to say. And I was just thinking to myself, like, oh man, not again, because that happened the first time we fenced. I was down 9-4 and luckily took it in priority, but caught
Whoa.
that one up. And then second bout was again, I'd fenced her before. It was a Russian fencer who was back under a neutral flag. We fenced at the Burgos Junior World Cup a few years back in the semis. So I was familiar with her. She was also on the younger end. She's maybe only like a year or two older than I am. And again, that one I was down by maybe 3 and had to come back there as well. And luckily was able to take the win by the same score.
Was it close at the end, and you just kind of ran away with it, or once you kind of figured out what you were doing, it was not really like a close bout anymore? One of the hard things about epee scores is they don't really tell you anything about
Definitely.
what happened in the match.
Yeah, so again, like they were up a good chunk of the way, but then once I was able to get like a 1 or 2 point lead, pretty much the whole day my bouts were pretty slow from the beginning. I think I got a P yellow in all of them just off the right from the beginning. So it would end up with them sort of having to chase me with like a minute or so left on the clock, and that ended up working out for me pretty well in the day. But I found a lot of success having them come to me. So that was generally my strategy on that day.
Gotcha. And that was also the case in the next 16 bout with Song as well, or?
Yeah, that one I was pretty scared for. I'll be honest.
She's pretty good.
She's pretty good, yeah. And we fenced in Cali, which was like the opening event of this season. And like I just have so much respect for her. I think she has like a great presence on the strip. Like you can't just deny that she's like an incredible fencer. But this one was different than the previous time we fenced in that I was able to take the lead from the beginning by a few, and you can never be comfortable, so it was always felt very neck and neck. Like she was always breathing down on me. That one was kind of interesting. Like time was really, really running out, and I ended up winning off of a a red card, because we kept like running into each other just because we were both so desperate to like try to get the points. So she ended up getting a yellow card and then started early too many times, and it was 14-12 with maybe like just under 2 seconds left, and started early, and the referee carded her, so I won off of that.
Wow, you don't see that card given very often in epee.
Yeah, so that was definitely a relief. I was glad it was over. I was pretty tired at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was definitely an interesting bout, and did not see that coming. So I was pretty happy after that one. It was a special moment for me.
The good kind of plot twist.
Yeah.
That's right.
And Sam, what about you in the 16?
Yeah, I believe I fenced Ma from Korea, if I remember correctly.
Kim from Korea.
Kim from Korea, right? Yeah, I fenced Kim from Korea. Yeah, lefty, about my height, very fast.
I think he beat Kano in the 16.
Right. Yeah, he beat Kano in priority.
Right.
Yeah, and yeah, I saw that bout. I was like, okay, I've seen him before, and yeah, I just knew like he was very, very, very fast in closing with the line. Like, just like a lot of times he would just go straight in. The very good straight flush is what I noticed. He's left-handed, so yeah, I was able to get a very early lead on him, and just score a ton of touches in the beginning, just by faking in close distance, and then when he would go forward, I would just pull out and counterattack or just close in, and yeah, I pretty much just use that throughout the bout. Really stayed away from the blade for the most part. Just kept the pressure on the short targets as well. So yeah, I mean.
And then the next bout against Bardnay is really interesting just from like a style matchup. You have Bardnay is one of the cleanest, like most technically proficient fencers on the circuit, and just aesthetically, your style is just so much different from his. So what was that bout like?
Yeah, I mean, before the bout, I had my coach, Natalie, just tell me, pretty much, and this was the first time I fenced I fenced top 16 fencers before, like in pools, just in DEs. This was my first time fencing like a top 10 fencer. Mm-hmm. I believe so. Yeah, and she was just like, yeah, be ready. He can pretty much do everything. That's what she told me. Pretty much, he can do everything. He has a very good flesh, very good counterattack, parry repose, good attack with the blades, good foot touch. yeah, you know, so we were just thought we thought out a couple things on that strategy there, how to just how to keep them just how to keep them, keeping him confused was also something that we were, discussing. One of the few details in that bout, and yeah, just going in there. It was very intense. Most throughout the bout, it was mainly the distance was pretty far for the most part, and it was most of the touches were either closing. He would go for straight flesh and me counterattacking, or I would try to close in when he attacked, or I would start the attack, and yeah, and where I got him a couple times was the wrist touch there, and I had a couple of those wrist touches that I liked, and then I was up. I think I was up like 12-10. Yeah, and then it was pretty much I just stuck with what me and Natalie were going over, and yeah, he tried to go for the foot a couple times. I was ready for that. I know he has a very good foot touch. I wasn't able to get him on the foot, but I was ready for that. So right when he shot to the foot, I knew exactly what to do to like jump up, extend with the counter attack, and yeah, it pretty much just it was a really good bout.
Nice. And what was the emotion like when you made the top 4?
Yeah, when I made the top 4, that was like, that is, of course, my first time doing that. I never made a medal at a Senior World Cup, so I was just like, it was very, I was like, yeah, I wasn't trying to let myself get overly excited, because I still had to do more. I was like, okay, it's not going to end here. But yeah, going into that, it was so long before after I finished the 8 before fencing the 4. I mean, it must have been like just a ridiculous amount of time. It was several hours, I think it was.
It says on here that match took place at 4:35 p.m. and that your semifinal took place at 7:00. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I didn't even know. Yeah, that was so long.
That is a long time. And then Hadley, what about you with Isola? Have you fenced her before?
Only at like the warm-ups before the tournament got started. But I mean, obviously, I was aware of her successes. For me, like, I think like the emotions I was going through at that point, it was kind of uncharted territory as well. So I like wasn't quite sure how to feel. Like I made 16s my first Senior World Cup, but since then it's been like 32 64s or losing in day 1. So already moving into the 8s, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then, like, of course the medal's gonna be on my mind, but I still felt pretty calm during the bout, whereas I feel like she'd been in that situation more often, so maybe it was like, I don't know, it was maybe more of like an emotional experience for her, but for me it sort of felt like I was just having a bit of an out-of-body experience. So when I was able to get the last touch, like, I don't think I saw you posted the compilation of our celebrations. I don't think mine was much to be entertained by, because I sort of just kind of like looked out and couldn't believe that I was in the situation that I was in. Like, so I think like I felt weirdly calm the entire day, and I couldn't express exactly why that was, but maybe that was to my advantage.
Totally. I mean, it worked.
Sort of keeping like the emotions on the low, but it was. Again, like that was like the first thing my coach, Guillermo Madrigal, he was saying to me, like, after he was like, don't get excited, like, you still have work to do, it's not done yet. So not really like allowing yourself to feel too happy, even though it is like obviously an accomplishment to crack the 4s, especially when you've never made it that far before. But
yeah,
like I was saying, like, job's not done yet.
Still got work to do.
Mm-hmm.
So then,
and relaxed too. Like I was when I walked out, I remember from my bout, you were just like reading your book, just reading a book, and I was like, wow, she's just chilling out.
I mean, we had like about 3 hours to kill, so like, what else is there to do?
Yeah, that is a crazy long time. And then your match against Vivian, I think at the time she was #1 in the world. Is that correct? Let me double check that. Yep, at the time she was #1 in the world going into this match. So what was that like?
I mean, again, like I knew it was not going to be an easy experience, to be sure.
It doesn't matter who you're fencing in the top
Yeah.
four. It's never going to be an easy experience.
Yeah, exactly. So I knew it was going to be tough. Luckily, like she's made plenty of high profile bouts, so there's plenty of video to watch of her, and
That's
I mean,
true.
I was excited to get out on like the big strip and fence. So that was definitely like I was trying to savor the moment a little bit because who knows the next time that I'll be able to have like an experience like this.
Yeah.
Um, but like it was in the back of my head. I was like, man, I hope I don't look stupid in front of this crowd. Like, as people are actually they're going to be watching this one. So it was definitely an interesting experience, and just like having the presentation beforehand and lining up, and just like that's when it finally started to crack. I was like, man, how did I find myself in this position? But again, like I was really grateful to be able to fence such like a strong opponent on such a big stage. Like that was really cool.
And in that bout, you were a little bit down the whole time, or you were a little bit up the whole time? How did the progression of the bout go?
Yeah, pretty much down the whole time, and then yeah, I mean, for most of my bouts, I started out down and would catch it up. So for this one, she was up 12-8 with time running out, and
Woo!
I kind of like zoned back in. I was like, oh my God, it's 14-14. Like, when did that happen? So we ended up going into priority, but my weapon stopped working. I was having like weird weapon difficulties, which was kind of surprising me because I'm usually like really careful about that. And my dad was there as well, and he's always the first one who's like, "You gotta test your weapon. You gotta test your weapon." Like as soon as I get off the strip. So I ended up I think I went through like 2 body cords and 3 weapons in that bout just because like things just kept not working. So I think maybe like as I was switching it, I realized I was like, wow, that's 14 all. Like, how did that happen? Um, so unfortunately, I was not able to get it in the end. Um, she came out on top that time. So that was a disappointment, but it was still like as soon as I finished the bout and I unhooked, I heard like the whole crowd. I'm sure Sam had this experience as well. Like a lot of the Team USA people stayed, and it was like doubly so because it was a Grand Prix and we had both men and women there. So that was really special. And as I was walking out, like everyone was cheering, and that just meant a huge amount. It was like that was kind of the first time I felt emotional that day. I was like, wow, that's really cool that they were here with me, like my friends and my teammates to
Yeah,
support me in this moment. Like that felt really great.
that is really cool. What about you, Sam? As you walked out, did you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, there was a ton of support there. As she was saying, Grand Prix, since it's both men and women, you just got a lot. You just got everybody there. Yeah, a lot of support, and yeah, it's great there. We've had recently, at least as far as the men's FA goes, just more for support for each other in general. There's more showing up to day twos. There's more like going to watch people stay. It's just more of that energy, and that's what us and the team, we've been talking about that with our coach, and yeah, we're glad to see that happen.
Yeah, having a positive team atmosphere is really, really important. When you feel like everyone is supporting you, it just gives you like I don't know, like a swell of confidence, or just like I don't know how to describe it, but it does feel really good when your teammates are there cheering you on. And then so that happened, and then tell us about your bout with Vismara.
Yeah, I mean, my bout with Ismara, incredible fencer. There, I've seen him. Of course, I've seen him many times before. I've seen him. I had a general strategy going in there. He's just one of those Italian fencers, like classic style, not much on the feet, very strong with the blade.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he very very strong fencer. Um, yeah, we're about the same size, but he's very good on the blade throughout the bout. I started up a little bit. I was able to surprise him with a few touches throughout the bout. It was going. I noticed he was changing a little bit, so I had to change a little bit. It was still good. There's a couple things like moves I wish I would have just pulled out, but yeah, in the end it was like 12. I was up around, I think it was 12-10 or 11-9, something like that, and it was tied. And then I got down. He was ready for me on one of the when I was setting up an attack, and I was down 14-12, and yeah, he was able to score out that last one. And yeah, sure, it was a little disappointing in the moment with the loss, but yeah, it was still a third place, and that was definitely the best, but by far the best result I've ever gotten, especially even at Senior World Cup. Since before that, I only made one day two, and it was just a 64. And yeah, so that was just my second ever day two. And yeah, again, very, very strong bout, very great fencer. Glad I fenced him. But I'll be ready for him next time though.
Nice. And then I want to ask you guys a question about like the competition mentality. Do you guys have any advice for people who are having a hard time getting into that, like getting into the zone or zoning in or whatever you want to call it?
I guess I can, for myself, like I think it's a very person specific experience. For me, I can get really superstitious with how I approach things. Um, so my routine for the day, like I have a lucky shirt that I'll always wear. And I found like after the first bout, I was like, okay, I gotta listen to the same three songs, and I have to read my book, and I have to like pace around for this long, and like I was getting very superstitious. So for me, it's silly, but it's also about controlling the things that I can. Like
That makes
it gives me a
sense.
sense of
It ain't
power.
broke.
Yeah. So it was getting a little silly. Like I remember at one point I was heading to the bathroom after one of my bouts, and I realized I'd taken off my knickers. And I was like, oh, before the previous two bouts, like I wore my fencing pants. So I went back and I changed
Put 'em
back
back
into
on.
them just to like just because I didn't want to break my superstition. But for me, it's about having it the only thing on my mind be the bout when it comes down to it. So that's about like controlling those little things that really don't matter. So for me, like that music helps with that, and just following the same routine before every bout. But I'm not one to get like super hyped up or show a lot of emotion. So it's not so much about like running laps around the room and like listening to heavy metal. But if that works for other people, like great for them. But I think it takes just figuring out what works for you, like being cognizant of when you feel like you're in the zone and what factors led up to that moment, and then taking notes and fiddling with it until you find like what's best.
That is exactly the advice that I give people. If you have a really good day or a really bad day, write down the factors that kind of led you into that, either like physiological or psychological, and then, try to recreate those if you did well doing them and try to stay away from those if you did poorly in those circumstances. So that, like, I'm really glad that you said it like that. And then what about you, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, as far as advice goes, that's pretty much the same thing I would say. Just find whatever works for you. Me personally, it took me a kind of a little bit to find that. I just found, like, for me, before I would just do like normal standard warm up, just like running, um, yeah, doing a little bit of footwork around, and then I would fence, like I would fence a couple bouts, before trying to go in. What I found what works best for me though is just a very, I don't like my warm up to be very long at all. I don't like it. I just like to be very brief. I don't really do like footwork, blade work, or anything like that before I start to fence. And I just do a little bit of jogging, and I don't really like. Yeah, I mean, I get dressed. I might fence like a bout or two, but on that day I didn't fence any warm up bouts. I just went straight in to my first uh to my first bout in the 64s, because that's just what works for me. That's just how I was feeling it. And yeah, I mean, again, you just gotta find what works for you. Some people, and I met other people who don't need to warm up as much, and that makes them feel good just mentally. And then others, who need to do a lot of warm up, it takes a lot more for them to get dialed in. So again, just whatever works for you.
Yeah, totally. Do you guys have anything else you want to say about the competition or any questions you want to ask each other or me?
I mean, I think it's worth mentioning that Yeisser also had an incredible result that day. So that made it extra cool having three
Three
out of eight
Americans
between
in
the
the
men's
top
and women's
four.
Oh
event
yeah,
be U.S. fencers. Like that was that was a really special experience. And just like the after of being able to chat with everyone who had stayed to support, as well as Sam and Yeisser, who had also achieved a medal. That was super cool. And like the bus ride back, was the back of the bus was like all US people, so it was, I think that was a like really fun.
Nice. That's great. Anything else you want to say, Sam?
Again, Yeisser doing that. Yeisser was fencing really amazing too. Like he had a pretty challenging bracket too. In the top 8, he beat Shikloshi. Is, you know, absolutely insane. And yeah, he had a similar bout with Hadley too. Like very down in the final and was able to come back just, you know, and then of course
I think it was 13-7 or something crazy like that.
yeah, he scored 6 in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, so that was also very cool too. Again, yeah, just talk with everyone after that. Having everybody like call me and stuff, and all my friends and family, everybody back, just back over in the U.S. Talking to them about it, and just really great experience overall, and it was a fun time. It was a fun time too. You know, we had again, both men and women there, since it's a Grand Prix. So, you know, a lot more you can do. You can do a lot of things in Doha. You know, it's a really nice place. So yeah, just overall like a pretty good middle of the week we had over there.
Middle of the week. That's fantastic. Well, I hope that this is the first of many medals for both of you young guns. So I'm just really, really happy for both of you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And last but not least, I'd like to thank my Emerald and Platinum patrons, David Amrani, Jonah Atkinson, Tiffany Miller, Roman Bruce, and Veronica Saran for their very generous contributions to this channel. Any other names you see are gold patrons. Thank you guys so much for the contributions. They really help out a lot and will enable me to make more videos like this. If you have any more ideas for what you want to see next, you can vote on those things on my Patreon page. To help support the channel, you can find links to my Patreon, PayPal, and Venmo accounts in the video information. Thanks guys, see you next time.